I'm Logan Webb, and you're listening to TortureCast.
You're listening to a podcast by and for fans of the three-time world champion, San Francisco Giants. With hosts Chad King and Eric Nathanson. This is TortureCast.
It's Monday, May 22nd, 2023, and this is episode 280 of the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the streaking San Francisco Giants. I'm your host, Chad King, and joining me today, talking cheese bread already. Good luck, cheese bread. Eric Nathanson, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. It's like I said to you right before the show. I got an air fryer. I can make cheese bread again. The Giants start winning. Coincidence? I'm not going to say, that I am affecting it, but I'm just not going to deny the coincidence that's happening. So, this is why the Giants are streaking. But hey, like Frank to the Tank said, we are going streaking right now. The Giants are playing good baseball, and I'm so happy to be back on TortureCast.
Oh my God, it is a great week. We have been waiting a while for this to happen. They've been a little streaky lately, kind of losing a lot, winning a lot, losing a lot, winning a lot. So really, they started the season pretty poorly, and they've been kind of hovering around 500 kind of after that first week of the season. But fantastic homestand, 5-1. And to be honest, the only game they lost was because of an error from the normally reliable JD Davis. I'm not gonna throw him under the bus. He's been above all of the average metrics for third baseman, but he happened to make an error that inning, and they did lose 1-0, but they could have lost it anyway if they went into extras, tied at 0. But yeah, fantastic week, and the rookies have been just absolutely holding up this team, including Casey Schmitt. They are now 22-24. It's funny how that record actually sounds good now because it's all relative to what it was a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yeah. When it was like 17-21 or 15-21, it doesn't.
Oh, at one point they were 6 or 7 games under 500, and it looked awful. They were like on pace for 100 losses. They have now officially leapfrogged the ridiculously financially backed San Diego Padres, which is kind of nice to see. They are now in third place, but they're still 6 games back of the Dodgers, who are starting to do Dodger things, although they were just kind of crushed by the Cardinals over the weekend. But like we predicted in the beginning of the season, kind of shooting for that, 87, 88 win total to get into the wild card. Those are the hopes and aspirations we had as Giants fans, not winning the West. We knew that was going to be a really tough call, and that's kind of the way it's sorting out right now. But hey, they're only a game and a half out of the wild card spot. So no panic, no worries there. They obviously have, almost 3/4 of the season to deal with that. So I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here, saying the Giants aren't going to win the West. But that's a pretty tall mountain to climb at this point. Not 6 games. It's the fact that they have to perform 6 games better than the Dodgers the rest of the way, and that could be a tough call. But the Giants are 15-11 at home, 7-13 on the road, where they definitely need to improve. But they're a respectable 12-14 against teams with winning records. So, all in all, things are looking up. The team is playing better. The bullpen is executing better. They're doing a little bit of small ball. The defense has tightened up. I mean, what's kind of past the eye test? And we'll get into stats later, but I mean, how's your eye been kind of reading the performance of this team over the last week or two?
You kind of just alluded to it perfectly. It's the fact that they're scoring runs without home runs. The fact that they're driving in runs and putting together rallies and moving runners along and doing things. That's been the biggest positive for me over the last week. They finally look like a team that doesn't have to sit and wait for the 3-run homer all the time. I mean, the rallies that they put together against the Marlins, I know there was like a JD Davis homer one day and yesterday Bailey homered, but like if you look back to this past week, most of the rallies did not involve a home run. And it was really good to see just guys getting on base instead of everybody just knocking it out of the ballpark. And I don't know what changed to do that. Maybe they're just starting to gel. Maybe it's the young guys coming up. But they look like they just legit look like a different team the last week than they have the rest of the season. It's really strange. I mean, they still have a 23.6% chance to make the playoffs according to Baseball Reference. And that's better than the Phillies' chances to make the playoffs, which is kind
Yeah.
of stunning if you think about it. They had the same
Th-
record, 22 and 24.
Yeah, that is kind of stunning. Obviously, they play in the East, but the wild card sitting there, kind of the same, chances of making that. Hey, defending National League champions, right? They're loaded. I mean, yeah, they lost Rhys Hoskins, but they definitely loaded up with Trey Turner, who's, by the way, it was a funny stat the other day, and they were showing how in 11, I think it was 11 games in the World Baseball Classic, Turner had 6 bombs and like 25 RBIs or something like that. And so far in 45 games with the Phillies, he has like 5 bombs and fewer RBIs. So he still hasn't even matched his WBC totals in like 4 times the number of games. So it's not that he's playing horribly. It's just he's not obviously as hot as he was in the WBC. That being said, you brought up Philly and the home run thing. And I do remember hearing this stat, and please correct me if I'm wrong because I don't have it in front of me. But I do know that they went crazy with the 2-out RBI knocks. And if you didn't know already, Eric's handle on Twitter is at 2-out hits, and there's something beautiful
2,
about
4,
that. And the
5, 6.
Giants just killed the Phillies with 2-out hits. And yeah, it wasn't home runs, man. I think they had 1 or 2 home runs that entire series against the Phillies. They won with, I wouldn't say small ball, but they won with rallies. They won with stringing hits together. They won with timely hits. And that's the stuff that fuels a winning streak. That's the stuff that gets teams into the playoffs, not just your 3-run bombs.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. In that Philly series, they scored a total of 4, 7, 11, 17 runs. And there's another 3, so we're up to 12, 13. 14 of the 17 runs came with 2 outs.
That's incredible, dude. I mean, I knew it was a lot, but 14 out of 17 now. Obviously, that's a little bit of an outlier just based on odds, but hey, if they can string together that a few more times, it's definitely going to help them. And the Phillies, their defense wasn't very good that series, and they definitely gave away a game or so. But yes, that's what we will take, and that's what the Giants were being victimized for most of the year. It's a bad defense, a costly error, or the bullpen coming in and just completely crapping the bed. So the Giants were losing the way the Phillies lost that series, and yes, the timely hitting certainly helped, but the Phillies gave a couple of assists there. So that's kind of like, oh, so that's what the Giants look like from the other side. Okay.
It really was. That was very much a carbon copy of how they've been playing. And hey, I'll take a sweep over the defending National League champs. The Giants are 5-1 this year against the 2 teams that played in the World Series last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so we take away those 5-1. What are they? 22, and so they're 17 and 23 against everybody else, but 5-1 against the Astros and Phillies.
I mean, they should just give them the trophy again. Just like they already
Right.
beat both participants, and they took 2 out of 3 in Houston, and then 2 or all 3 against Philly. So, yeah, a great streak for the Giants, and they're heading off to the road against Minnesota and Milwaukee. I think it's gonna be a tough road trip, but I mean, if they can hang at 500 or go 3-4 or 4-3, come back home, things will be looking up for them. Look, it's funny how this season started. Oh, by the way, Borat called. He wanted to talk about the Giants season.
Wow, it's very nice.
The Giants catching situation has been interesting. You had guys like Austin Wynns, who you presumed were going to make the team. He did. He had like 1 at bat with the Giants and then DFA'd. Then he bounced around to the Dodgers, and now he's currently with the Rockies. Can't even follow the guy. He's bouncing around so much, but staying in the West. You have Patrick Bailey, who just wasn't even assumed to be up anytime soon. You had Roberto Perez, who gets injured in the first week of the season. He's out for the entire year. You had Blake Sabol, who came out of nowhere as the Rule 5. They didn't want to lose him back to that. And then you have Joey Bart, who was being talked about by Kapler in spring training. Like, he's not even guaranteed to be the starter. And we're like, wait, what? What's going on here? And he's performed admirably when he's been in there, Eric. And I don't know what's going on with him, but he has just been chronically injured at the beginning of the season. And they've been relatively thin at that catching position, which formerly was a strength. But it's too early to tell. But man, Patrick Bailey, who was fast-tracked. I mean, he was just playing with San Jose a season and a half ago. I mean, he was just down in San Jose. and he quickly went through double and triple A, and now suddenly found himself in the show this weekend. Had his first career start, had his first career hit, and then yesterday had his first career home run.
Pitch. High drive, left field, on a hair, and this game is tied. Cause the baby to start crying. Mom's got to get up and clap. That's my boy. And that was no cheapie either. First hit of the game for the Giants.
Yeah, so that was awesome to see that, because he's not really known as a power hitter, and he's actually more he's a natural righty, but he is a switch hitter, and he's stronger from the left side. And he I guess he said post game that was the best right-handed swing he's ever had in a professional game. And he crushed it, 427 feet. So, I mean, what do you think about this youth movement, Eric? I mean, we've been talking about it for the last couple of years that, this is Farhan's plan, right? I mean, all these guys are coming through the ranks. We got your Lucianos and your Matoses and your Baileys and your, Schmitts and everyone else. It's like, when are these guys going to arrive? When is the next batch of Bumgarner and Posies and Crawfords and Belt's going to arrive? And it felt like it was just taking too long. Well, even though I think we expected Ramos and others to be the first ones up, Schmitt has obviously come up and announced himself. He has just torn the doors open. He started every game so far. He's still hitting 383 through his first 12 games. But now you got Patrick Bailey coming up and playing well on the weekend. So, I mean, is this where the Giants are heading? Are they finally cracking that vault door into their prospects?
I mean, we can hope, right? Casey Schmitt, I don't know about you, and you guys talked about it last week, but then Casey had another really nice week. Casey Schmitt is playing the best of any guy we've seen called up in the entire existence of this show, pretty much. I mean, the comps are like when Buster came up.
Yeah.
There's no other comps right now for a Giants player who came up. So it's really fascinating to see Casey's doing things we have literally not seen done before by a young guy. And then I think to have Bailey come in and have such a good weekend almost re-solidified, okay, maybe the future is on a good track. Yeah. Not only did Bailey homer and have a good weekend, he said it. The last 2 years after he got drafted, he became homer happy. And he kept trying to hit homers and kept trying to hit homers. And this year, he's just gone back to basics, where I'm just going to drive the ball, put my best swing on it. And the fact that he could just turn a switch on like that and suddenly start performing in that way is a great sign. It is a great sign for the future, especially for Bailey to be able to make adjustments. So I think these two guys are showing that there is a path for the young guys, like a Matos, like a Luciano, like these guys to finally come up, like a Harrison, granted different position. But it's showing the path that these guys can come up. And it's kind of showing that the Giants didn't need to go out and spend an extra $40, $50 million on Stripling and Manaea and maybe even Haniger at this point. There's a bunch of guys that they went out and spent money on to try to fix the problem when Correa failed. And we were saying it, maybe they should let the young kids play, and the young kids are showing that maybe they should let them play. I mean, we can only wait on Ramos so long. And he's back on the 60-day IL now, so he's not a concern. Joey, we always thought was going to be something just because, he's always been touted as that. But like you said, he can't stay on the field right now. And availability is a big part of ability. And he's not showing that right now. So it's frustrating to see Bart go down this quickly. But Casey Schmidt's already 7th on the team in Baseball Reference WAR. The only position players ahead of him are JD, Lamont, and Tyro, which makes sense. So to see the young kids come up and perform and just contribute right away, I mean, Casey Schmitt has the 2 fastest throws by an infielder this season. It blows my mind. Where have we been hiding these guys? But it was time. It was time. And I think that this just, like I said, it opens the door. And I've loved watching the young kids play. I've loved watching the excitement that they bring to the dugout. These guys are pulling for them like crazy. The crowd shots are great. The families going crazy are awesome. I mean, even Ryan Walker had, his family in the stands yesterday when he made his major league debut. And I think he picked up the win.
He got the win.
So, Oh, yeah, look at that. He did. And he pitched well. He did. He has a weird motion, but it was just another example of the young kids starting to come up. And, this is where we have to give Farhan a chance. For as much as I got on Farhan at the beginning of the year for just being a company man and doing what it was the bosses asked him to do so they could continue to make money, I'm going to give him a little credit for spotting some talent here. I didn't expect Casey Schmitt to be what he was, and hopefully Patrick Bailey is showing glimpses of what he can be and not just having that. Sometimes the guys come up, they have that bump, but I don't think that's the case. These guys look like they belong. Casey Schmitt looks and acts like he belongs at the big league level.
Casey has, dare I say, a little bit of swagger, but in a good way,
Yes.
right? Not that his
Yep.
crap doesn't stink, just that he belongs there. His body language, his aggressiveness, his post-game interviews, he already seems like a veteran, and him and Crawford are obviously hitting it off. He's distilling a lot from what Craw's telling him. And you look at his performance in the minor leagues. I mean, he's never been like a serious power hitter. Obviously, we don't expect that. But, San Jose, 64 games. That was his worst performance in the minors. He hit 247. He goes to Eugene, 93 games, 273. He goes to Double-A, 29 games, 342. And then, of course, he was Triple-A at the beginning of the year. And a little bit of last year, 36 games, 315. So his career minor league batting average is 283. He's hitting 383 right now. Of course, we don't expect that to stay that high, but he's had performance at every level, and there's just been no sign of it really dipping off. So, I mean, he kind of tracks to a guy who's going to hit in the high 200s, I'd say, in the major leagues, and he's starting every game. His defense is incredible. He does pass that eye test, and I think that's why you're not seeing him being platooned much at all. He's playing.
Right.
He's also got the versatility at every position, which really helps, right? Because he can play any of the other three infield positions, and he has. He's been at second, short, and third. And you don't want to take J.D. Davis out of the lineup. He's been killing the ball, right? Tyro Estrada, he's freaking probably MVP of the Giants right now, as far as offensively and what he's doing in that regard. And then you got Crawford his last season with the Giants. So it's really difficult to fit him in there, but it's a good problem to have. I mean, and that's the thing that's really great about it. So he'll get a day off here or there, but I think he's a guy, Eric, that what he's shown in the first 80 something at bats so far in the pros, he's not going back down. He's here.
Yeah. 47 at bats. He
Sorry,
is
not
18 for 40. Yeah, he's 18 for 47. And you brought up the David Villar comparison last week, and he has like whooped David Villar. And what David Villar had 13 hits, so he's got another 5 hits over the past week to pass him. The one concern with Casey Schmitt, and we cannot ignore it, is the guy hasn't walked yet. 47 at bats, and he has yet to draw a walk.
Yep.
So to hit 383 at that level without drawing a walk, what it really, we can't expect him to always hit 383. But what it does show you is he's got incredible bat to ball skills. He's only struck out 7 times in those 47 at bats. Sorry, is it 7? Yeah, 7 times in those 47 at bats. So he's constantly making contact with the ball, which is what you want to see. And the walks will come. That's just one of those things. I can't imagine Crawford was walking a lot when he first started. Even Belt might not have been. But, Schmitt, that's something we do want him to improve on. But it's not a hassle. It's not a reason to take him off the field. We've already seen Crawford sit 1 or 2 extra games over the past week than we would have seen had Schmitt not been brought up. I am certain Crawford would have been in there against a couple lefties if Schmitt hadn't been brought up. But Schmitt got brought up, showed that he can handle it. And so Crawford is going to lose out on some playing time this year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that, and I think Brandon's okay with that. I think he knows the ceiling he has hit. I mean, this is all speculation, but he's doing a good job of just taking the kid under his wing. And, that's what you want a franchise icon to do. So I commend Crawford for his role in this so far, because if Schmidt's passing the eye test with us, he's definitely passing the eye test with Crawford.
Yeah, you definitely want those walks to increase at some point, but we'll take a 383 batting average any day of the week.
Right.
That's no problem
it's
at
still
all.
383 on base. There's only Austin Slater and Austin Slater have a higher on base percent. Lamont, 425. That's the only regular with a higher on base percentage.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up Lamont as a comp. Obviously, his on-base percentage is one of the tops in the leagues right now. Same with his OPS as a result of that. Plus, he's been hitting the ball, a few home runs here and there. But like, for example, this year, Lamont Wade has 162 plate appearances and 32 walks. So, that's like, what, a 20% clip, right? So 20% of his appearances at the plate turn into walks. And you got Casey Schmitt with 0 so far in 47. But even in the minors, it looks like he had 78 walks in 951 plate appearances, which tracks to about 7 or 8%, which is like 1/3 of the frequency that Lamont Wade walks. Just to give you a little bit of a comparison, that Lamont Wade definitely is like a Brandon Belt in that regard. He looks for his pitch. While Casey Schmitt, I mean, you saw him over the weekend. He got one of them that he smoked a double, but before that, he was fooled on 2 sliders in the dirt. Like, he was absolutely fooled. So he will chase. He will go after things. And I think the league is a game of adjustments. And right now, the pitchers have to adjust to him. And the scouting reports are going to be more known. It's going to be go after this guy with stuff on the edges, with movement on the edges, right? He will chase. He will chase. He will chase. So I think you're going to see more of that as he settles in here to a regular routine, and then he's going to have to adjust back. And one of those adjustments is going to be more selective. He has to be more selective and not chase all that junk out of the zone. So we'll see what this cat and mouse game kind of produces, but it's fantastic to see these guys producing, including Bailey. And getting back to Bailey, what do you think? I mean, Bart's going to come back here at some point. They got Blake Sable, who has no options. Obviously, he can't be sent down. Otherwise, he goes back. So what do the Giants do? I mean, they're not going to get rid of Bart. They're probably not going to get rid of Sable on short notice with Bailey only having a week under his belt. So do you see Bailey getting sent back down?
I see it as a possibility. I really do. He's going to have to force his way to stay at the big league level, I think. The only solution is to send a Bryce Johnson down so Sable can get some work in the outfield instead.
True.
And make Bart and Bailey your catching tandem. But I think just for the sheer number of at-bats he'd get in the minor leagues, they'd be willing to send Bailey back down when Bart's healthy just to keep getting him at-bats at this point. Because if they keep him at the major league level, he might not get as many starts as he would in Sacramento, especially when Bart is back. Because at that point, you've got, your 2 stud catchers. How do you decide, which guy gets 4 games a week, which guy gets 3, and that can cause more problems. So, yeah, I can see Bailey getting sent back down when Bart gets healthy. He's going to really have to force the issue to keep himself to stay, I think. And I think that's how the Giants are viewing it right now. And I hope Bailey's viewing it that way, too, because it gives them some motivation to stay up here. I'd rather have a catcher logjam because, like you said, we went from a position of strength to a position of weakness. And I'd love to see Bailey bring it back to a position of strength. But as weird as it sounds, that's all dependent on Bart and how healthy he stays. But, I mean, it bugs you. I don't know. It bugs me a little bit. This is Bart's, 3rd time on the injured list already this year? I didn't know he was this injury prone. You know, it's a little frustrating that he keeps going down.
And when he's playing well. His defense has been spectacular. And he's got a high average. His strikeouts have been cut way down. He still strikes out a lot, but not like at the same rate as he was last year. So there are a lot of positives I see in Bart. Still has yet to hit a home run at Oracle, which is weird. But it's he's doing great when he's in there. But the injuries are a bit of a concern. It's crazy to see Patrick Bailey. You talked about him getting more at bats, and I knew that he was fast tracked because at the beginning of the year they said, "Hey, he's getting assigned to Double-A," right? Because last year he was in Eugene for the most of the year. And then, of course, prior to that, he did the Arizona Fall League in 2021. And then he was with San Jose in 2021. And before that, he was drafted, basically. So he had a whopping 14 games at Double-A, 60 plate appearances. The exact same at Sacramento, 14 games, 60 plate appearances. So
wow.
He's had very little time in Double and Triple-A, and boom, he finds himself in the majors just like that. So, yeah, I do see him probably going back down. I mean, unless, of course, if he does a Casey Schmitt this week, then that's like you said, he has to play his way into the lineup. He has to play at a level that forces their hand. But if he plays like a typical guy who comes up for a week, and he's like 2 for, 20 or something like that, and the game's a little fast for him, okay, fine. He's had a whole 28 games in double and triple A. Send it back down to Sacramento. Get his repetition. He hasn't even been down there that long. In fact, he was only 11 for 60 in Sacramento at 216.
I mean, and the offensive side, you want to see that do well. But the thing that's actually amazed me about Bailey, you want to talk about the eye test. He passes the eye test behind the plate. He stole multiple strikes for Giants pitchers over the weekend. His glove movement and the way he receives the ball is just so pure and natural. And not that Bart isn't doing a good job framing, because I agree with you. Bart's having a great year behind the plate defensively. Bailey looked just as good over the weekend. He really, really did. Like, there was quite a few pitches that he just snapped that wrist and snapped that glove in a little bit and caught a strike on that one, even though it was maybe 3 inches outside, that I'm not necessarily seeing. I mean, we know Sable can't do that, but Bart's not always doing that. And I think that that's one of those things that's going to help Bailey stay at this level, is that kind of defensive production. If the pitchers like pitching them, that's awesome. That they seem to have gotten into it with Bart. They seem to be okay with Bart at this point. So you need them to be comfortable with Bailey. I watched the end of yesterday's game again, and Camilo Duvall did not look happy with Patrick Bailey at the end of the game. Usually the catcher will pop up and there'll be high fives, and he kind of just grabbed the ball back from him, and they both had these stern looks on their face. And I'm sure they were just frustrated in the moment of what was going on in the game, but you just got to hope that doesn't mean that other pitchers aren't liking it. And Camilo is an outlier. We've seen it this year. Camilo's an outlier. The guy's having a hard time with the pitch clock. So maybe that's just him and not Bailey.
Yeah, and you also had Bailey with his first error of the year, which led to an unearned run in the 9th. And I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Maybe it was in combination of a couple of things. I don't know. But yeah, I kind of saw that too. But I think it's going to be just a minor blip, hopefully. But speaking of Duvall, it's a good segue. He had 4 saves this week, which is insane. He had 3 against Philadelphia on gas. Got a little scary there in a couple of moments, but he did nail down all 3. And then, of course, yesterday with the Fish. So Duvall's been, pretty solid as of late. Not perfect. He was, a couple of those saves, but I mean, what do you think about him? He has been struggling with the pitch clock, though. It is very strange to see someone not being able to adapt, while I'd say 9 out of 10 pitchers have.
Yeah, that's the concerning part. I mean, he gets a wild hair up his nose still every once in a while, but it seems to help him because batters think, oh crap, this ball could go anywhere at any moment. I mean, Camilo leads the National League in saves with 12. And he's converted 12 of 13 save opportunities. So while he's given up a run here and lost the game there, he's still performing consistently enough that I'm totally good with, it was a surprise this week, though, that after he did pitch in 3 straight games and then everybody had a day off Thursday, Camilo was also given the day off Friday. So by pitching him for 3 games, we lost him for 2 days. Granted, one of those days was an off day. You just better hope they don't do that kind of thing going forward. Do I think we need to be concerned about him in general, though? No, I don't think we really do. I mean, his ball still has the unbelievable late life on it. I mean, he's still hucking 101 up there. But it is a little concerning to see him not get the pitch clock thing down, because I in my mind, I still see Bart from a couple weeks ago just slamming the ground going, come on, man. What is going on? But if that's like the only thing that's concerning, Duvall should be okay. It's getting the ball to Duvall that's been the biggest problem thus far. I mean, our bullpen, the way it's looked, he got Scott Alexander pitching every single day, John Brebbia just about every single day, and they've been struggling. They need to find a good lineup at the back end of the back end of the bullpen, and I think that's part of why Duvall pitched so much last week. Is Gabe just doesn't trust anybody. And so they ended up having to use him so much. But I'm not concerned with him going forward. I think anything that has to do, with his hiccups are just blips on the radar right now.
Yeah, and even though I led off the top of the show with that, the bullpen is doing better. They are, but as accumulation stats over the year, they're still third to last in ERA with a 5-something, 5.84, 5.76, something like that. So the bullpen still has a long way to go in regards to this. And could you imagine, like, if the bullpen was just an average bullpen, how much better their record would be right now? It'd be so
they'd be over
significantly
500.
better. Yeah, for sure.
No question.
Yeah, because it's only two games would be over 500.
Yeah, the running joke right now in my house is, oh, the Giants are up 4-0. Okay, well, let's just wait till they blow it later in the game, because that has been their MO. Is the Giants will score early, and then the offense. Not only does the offense go to sleep, then the bullpen gives it up, and that does not make for a good combination whatsoever. And that's where I get the most frustrated with the team so far this year. Is they can put together rallies in the first, second, and third inning, but then their bats go silent. And the bullpen's not able to handle it, because the stress of a one-run game constantly is going to eventually break you. And I think that's kind of what's happened with them so far.
I didn't include it in the show notes, but you brought up something I looked at earlier this week, and that was how frequently the Giants score, how many runs they score, and how it ranks in Major League Baseball by inning. And by far, their worst innings to score are after the fifth. In fact, they're worse than 20th in the league. It depended on the inning. They were like 29th in the sixth inning, 25th in the seventh inning. Anyway, point is, they're in the bottom third of all teams scoring in the last third of the game. And that was a feeling I had, and that's a feeling that a lot of Giants fans had. But the stats do, bear that out. For some reason, the Giants' bats go cold simultaneously while the bullpen implodes, right? So it's this bad combination where if you have a tight game or a lead, you just don't know. You're like, crap, the starter's out after 5 or 6. Here comes the pen. We only got a 3-run lead. That should be good enough. It oftentimes is not. So it's been the Achilles of this team this year, and we really thought it was going to be one of their strengths. It still can be, a lot of time left, but individuals have to turn it around. So hopefully Duvall keeps what he's doing. Brebbia has been better of late. Alexander, the Rogers brothers have been better as of late. I know that Tyler stepped in and had a save the other night, which was nice. But he had that wicked frisbee rising slider to close out one of those games against I guess it was Friday night. That was sick, man. It looked like it was just floating up there, and it just defied gravity and just went up. That was sick. Oh, it's like one of those wiffle ball tournaments. He's got some funky ass movement. So the bullpen definitely got some gaps to fill here, but overall, I wanted to take a look at not just team stats, but kind of how individuals are performing against and across the league. We already mentioned Thairo Estrada. He's 5th in the National League. These are all ranks in the National League, by the way. 5th in average with a 309 and 5th in stolen bases with 12. Lamont Wade is 3rd in on base at 425, 7th in OPS at 901. Alex Cobb's got the best ERA of any NL starter, 194. Duvall with the most saves at 12. Webb is 6th in Ks with 65 and has the same number of innings pitched, which also leads the National League. So, for a lot of people out there that have been complaining about, guys like Webb getting taken out too early, which, by the way, was back tightness last start. So that's why. He leads the freaking league in innings pitched, so you really can't complain too much about that. And then Disclafani is 4th in whip at just under 1 at 0.99, so his batting average is very low as well. So he's definitely missing bats. It's just ERA is a little bit higher than you would normally expect. So, I mean, look, individuals are performing fine. Yeah, they don't have the Aaron Judges or whatever. But speaking of that, I thought it would be good to kind of look at the what if Giants, right? People who were screaming. And I was one who thought Rodon would be great if we could keep him, but not at the price he's going to command. And sure enough, he went to New York for 6 years and $1 billion or whatever it was. And you and I pretty much agreed, yeah, that's just out of their price comfort zone. And he has an injury history. But he turned that 1 year with the Giants into his payday because he was healthy and he pitched fantastic. And, he was an all-star. And boy, those warning bells came to fruition, haven't they, Eric? I mean, he has not pitched an inning yet for the Yankees.
who's been diagnosed with chronic back issues, whatever that's supposed to
Don't
be.
we all have that? I don't.
Right. That's what I was going to say. By 8:00 at night, I have a back issue. But like the thing with Rodon is, I'm glad they didn't end up spending the money on him. But seeing what's happening now, I kind of wish they had traded him at the trade deadline last year, so we
No.
could have gotten a couple prospects out of this. That would have been nice because, like you said, I mean, he hasn't thrown an inning. The Yankees have got to be so pissed at him. I mean, this is like Kevin Brown all over again.
Yeah.
I remember he signed that huge contract, and then he couldn't stay healthy whatsoever. So they did dodge a bullet there. I mean, we have Ross Stripling and Sean Manaea. As I'm told, I don't understand it, but those guys are there to fill Rodon's role. Well, they kind of have because they at least are out there throwing pitches, and Rodon isn't. So they did. They totally dodged a bullet on that one. And then they get to see the other guys starting tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, Judge doesn't count, but they get to see Correa starting tonight in Minnesota. And that guy's hitting 206.
It's just unbelievable. There.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, basically. Here it is. I had the list up and then it kind of went away. All right, here are the Giants with a higher batting average than Carlos Correa. And no, I'm not including guys with like 6 at-bats, right? Casey Schmitt, obviously not as many at-bats, 383. Tyro Estrada, 309. JD Davis, 288. Blake Sable, 277. He's done a nice job raising his average, by the way. I don't talk enough about him. We got Lamont Wade, of course, 258. Mike Yastrzemski, 255. Wilmer Flores, 241. Jock Peterson, 235. Bart Haniger, 211. And then Conforto at 210. So you have most of the Giants, basically. They're regulars, platooners, higher than Correa. You got JD Davis with more home runs, JD Davis with more RBIs, Conforto with more home runs. So, yeah, so far, the Giants have dodged a bullet there. It's way too early to tell. I mean, he has a whole season to turn this around. He has 5 more years after this. It really is about the chronic ankle injury, or I shouldn't say the chronic, but the worry about that and how his performance will be affected over time, not the first quarter of the first season, which a lot of people can struggle in. So I'm not going to sign him off yet, but it is kind of so far a little schadenfreude to go, hey, how's he doing over there in Minnesota? Not so good. Okay. And like you said, Judge is a different story.
Yeah. Correa's striking out 1 every 4 at bats, too. I guess he does fit in. Sorry.
Yeah, he would have been a great Giant there.
Yeah. But Judge,
no.
you're saying.
Oh, just that Aaron Judge kind of didn't count because he was never going to be a Giant. He was just using them as leverage the whole time. He was going to be a Yankee the whole time. So that doesn't really count.
Nope.
Giants couldn't have done. I mean, because as we found out later, San Diego threw even more money at him, and he said no. So it wasn't about the money, just about being a Yankee and getting what he thought he deserved from them. So yeah, they're heading into Minnesota for that. So it'll be interesting to see Correa there. Hopefully there'll not be any animosity. There shouldn't be. But Madison Bumgarner, we didn't really talk about him the last couple episodes. But he was, of course, DFA'd by Arizona, and he's just sad to see him the way he's been performing really since his entire tenure with Arizona. And there was a lot of talk amongst Giants fans, some Giants fans, a minority of Giants fans. Wouldn't it be great to sign him back here? No, of course not. Now, if he were to come back and sign a 1-day contract to retire, that's a different story. We can talk about that. But Madison's not a quitter. And I'm a little surprised, not really surprised. I'm mildly surprised that another team has not taken a flyer on him yet. What about you? What do you think? Or do you think that the writing's out there, the scouts are out there, and they're like, this dude's cooked. Don't even sign him. Don't even take a chance.
I mean, that's got to be the view they have. That's got to be what they're seeing if nobody is going to sign him. I mean, in San Francisco, he never had his ERA leak above 4. In Arizona, it's been 6.48, 4.67, 4.88, and 10.26.
Yeah.
That's bad. So there must be something that, the problem with it too is Bumgarner is such a red ass that these teams don't want to bring him on and be a problem. They don't want to bring him on just so he could be complaining and screaming at players who aren't running around the bases fast enough. It's like, it's one thing if you are from 1955 and you get transported here and you perform. It's another if you don't perform, your act grows tired. And I think that's what happened with Bumgarner, and I think that's why nobody has swooped in to sign him for anything. I'm
Yeah.
sure he has said, "I'm still a starter. I don't want to pitch out of the bullpen." Well, that's going to scare off half the teams at this point. And
Yeah,
so
true.
I think that's, that's really, it's the combination of those things. And, Bum is a stubborn SOB, and he's probably going to stubborn himself right out of the league at this point. And yeah, it'd be nice to see him in a Giants uniform to retire, but like, I don't need that personally. I was tired of Bumgarner's act his last couple of years in San Francisco. So I already had kind of checked out on him. I'm grateful for everything he did, but I mean, if his attitude was different, or if he was at least showing slightly better results, I think he'd be getting more chances. But, being the red ass that he is and somebody who doesn't seem like he's going to compromise, I don't think teams want to deal with that. The Giants sure don't. The Giants want players that are going to listen. The Giants want players to do what they teach them to do. Bumgarner is not that type. And that's what the league is going towards right now. So I'm not surprised he's not getting picked up. I'm not. I don't want the Giants to pick him up. I mean, I can't see a scenario where that's going to
No.
happen. I mean,
No. The only scenario I could see is if he literally remained unsigned. If the thing that you bring up is there's the second point, or the third point I wanted to make, is that he is a red ass and he is stubborn, and I don't think he's ready to quit. Clearly, I don't think anyway. He certainly hasn't announced anything, but perhaps he has been approached by teams. But maybe they did put it in a way of like, "Hey, Madison, we'd love to have you, but you're going to come out of the pen." And he probably said, "F off," right?
Right.
So that's also something that could be happening, where that's just not public knowledge, where teams have approached him to be a reliever, and he's like, "Nope, I ain't gonna do that." So you're right; he might stubborn his way right out of this league if something like that is going on. And the only scenario I could see is if he goes unsigned this entire year, and it leaks into next year, and he does a spring training thing, and he finally throws up the white flag, which, again, I don't see him doing that anytime real soon. But that would also have to happen at the end of this year. The Giants, let's say, God forbid, they're out of the playoff hunt, right? And they approach Madison in the last week of the season, and they say, "Hey, we'd love to have you, throw a game here, do like a Matt Cain send-off or something like that." Again, he would have to throw up the white flag and go, "Yeah, I'm done." And I don't see him doing that. So, unfortunately, I don't see a marriage happening here with the Giants, which is fine. It's not a big deal. He is probably a guy who he was never into the pomp and circumstance, into the ceremonies, into the riding off into the sunset with a bunch of fanfare. He is the kind of guy who, when he eventually does, kind of give in, he's just going to go off quietly. It'll just be very quiet. And
that's why I don't think he'll go to the bullpen. I mean, the guy has not pitched out of the bullpen since Game 7 of the 2014 World Series.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and he did that as a we need you now, and he wanted to be the hero, and that's fine. But you're right, like regular bullpen work is it's not going to be his jam. So yeah, he probably has had some contact with some teams, and yeah. Anyway, it's one of those sad things to see because he was such a revered Giant, and he deserves a statue. And he may get one day, but for now, I think he has to recognize that his time is over in the league. He's clearly not able to prove it, not just this year, but his entire tenure with the Diamondbacks. They got screwed in that deal.
Yeah.
Kind of goes back. Maybe they should have traded him in 2019. That would have been nice, but they didn't.
They had to sell tickets. They were 1 week away. 1 week away. Yeah,
they were. Yeah, it was close. They were performing well at near the All-Star break and the trading deadline. And they're like, "Hey, wait a minute. We might be able to get in this thing." And, yeah. Weren't able to make it happen. But
that's why I think, like, if Texas hasn't taken a flyer on Bumgarner, then nobody's going to. If Bochy won't even touch Bumgarner right now, then nobody's going to.
Yeah, that's a really good point because, boy, does Boch have Texas humming along right now. They are just...
Yeah,
they are incredible right now. They actually have one of the best starting ERAs in the entire league. Surprising to see that.
Yeah, I've like half their starting rotation on my fantasy team. So I've been between Heaney and Evaldi, I've been watching them like crazy. So
yeah,
he has that team going well.
No, for sure. Well, I just think, after Bumgarner, if he doesn't get back in the league, You got Crawford probably ending his career and retiring it after the end of this year. That'll be it, right?
Yeah,
That'll be it for anyone from the old guard of significance. I'm not talking about anyone who was like a bench or role player, but anyone who was kind of a mainstay with the 2014 team. That's well, I mean, I guess Brandon Belt if he sticks around, and he's not been tearing the cover off the ball in Toronto like I thought and hoped, but he might be out of the league after this year as well. We'll see what happens. But anyway, that's kind of a little checkup on Giants. That would be they have 3 in Minnesota coming up this week, and then 4 in Milwaukee. So not the easiest road trip, a lot of travel. But yeah, they got to improve that road record. So hoping for a 4-3 would be nice, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'd take 4-3. I'd take 3-4 out of this one, to be honest.
Yeah,
with you.
Yeah, and hopefully Webb, his back is not going to be an issue on this trip. But I have not heard any more detail. Maybe I missed something. Have you heard anything about Webb's
No,
back?
I haven't either. I didn't even know about the back thing until afterwards because he just kind of got pulled after 6. And it was just like, okay, maybe they just felt like he was exhausted. Maybe it was warmer that day, but with the back tightness, that's a little concerning. So, like you said,
It's
we'll
a
have
little
to see. It's a
concerning.
wait and see thing. Yeah, it's a wait.
Yeah,
and see
hopefully it's
thing.
something like, when I'm at the gym and doing some high interval training or high intensity interval training where it's a lot of deadlifts or a lot of kettlebells or a lot of having that weight out in front of you, the back gets really strained. And by the end of the workout, it's really sore and weak. And it feels like, oh my God, an hour from now, it's going to be horrible. The next day it feels fine. You can go right back out and do the exact same thing again. So I'm hoping it's something similar to that where it was just maybe a repetitive motion that kind of aggravated his back, but it's not an injury per se. It's just stiffness, just like you can get in the gym with overusing a body part that isn't going to last too long. So hopefully he'll be good because Webb is finally settling in to be the pitcher that we expected him to be. He got his ERA under 3 now with his 6 shutout innings against Miami. So good shit, man.
Yeah,
All right.
really, he's been really. Him and Disco are they're a good 1-2 combination right now. I'm gonna take
Yeah.
quick mea culpa on Disco. The guy's been 1,000 times better than I thought he would be, and I'm happy to eat that crow. I'm so happy to eat that crow. I might not be eating it 3 months from now if he gets injured, but for the moment, I will totally eat crow on Anthony DeSclafani.
Well, it was one of those things where I thought Disco was going to be fine because his ankle was better and he had such a great 2021. But then I thought Stripling was going to come in and do well as well, and that just has not come to fruition. He's still in there as a starter, and the last one wasn't horrific. But Shamania, though, he's someone I definitely did not expect to perform well, and sure enough, he has not. He has just been batting practice for that dude. So he has officially been moved out of the starting rotation as of about a week plus ago, and he is squarely in the bullpen. But he took it like a champ. Said, "Hey, I had my shot and I haven't been able to do it." So he understood. He's taken his assignment, unlike maybe a Madison Bumgarner, to go to the pen. So, but yeah, every time he has good stuff, Eric. He has good stuff. He doesn't locate well. He does not locate well. So it's frustrating because I think he has a lot of talent and he's had success in the past. And it's, especially with the A's, it's just not happening for him right now. It didn't happen with San Diego either. And those were some of the warning signs. But a lot of times the Giants take these pitchers and make them very successful reclamation projects. And they just haven't been able to do that with Manaea so far. Stripling, who just dominated in the AL East last year, that's why it's so befuddling to me, why he's not doing, even reasonably well this year so far. He still can turn it around plenty of time, but it's been kind of shocking. Everything's just been left up. It's just up, and just he's getting hit hard. But it is what it is. Giants starting, staff is still good. They're still in the top 10 in the league, so there's no major concerns there. They're able to kind of patch those holes as they see fit. So if they continue that strength, the bullpen gets a little bit stronger. The Giants do have a shot at hanging in this thing. It's very possible. It's definitely looking a lot more positive than it was a couple of weeks ago.
It really is. I'm feeling a lot better, and the infusion of the young guys probably helped that. I mean, it doesn't hurt that they're now in the wild card race as it stands. We got teams underperforming: Philly, San Diego. So the Giants, they do have their shot. They absolutely do. So it was a good positive week of Giants baseball. Like you said, this is a tough road trip coming up. So hopefully next week we're still talking. I mean, they'll still be in the race regardless, but hopefully they at least, they're competitive this week. They've been better in close games lately than they were, but they're still like 3-10 and blowouts or something like that. So they are getting blown out much more than they're blowing teams out. But as long as they're winning these close games like they did all week against Philly and Miami,
That's what
Miami
she
was
said.
no slouch. Miami was no slouch. They were on a roll when they came into San Francisco. So it was good to see them kind of put their foot on their throat. So I feel some positive energy coming out of the Giants right now. It's a very, very good feeling.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff, man. All right, well, that's going to do it for episode 280. We'll be back next week with 281. You can follow us collectively on Twitter at TortureCast or individually myself at ChadK21. Eric, we talked about his handle earlier, at 2 Out Hits with the number 2. Hopefully the Giants continue to rake those. Also, if you want to send in segments or you got questions for the show, you can DM us. We also have an email we don't often tout. That's torturecast@gmail.com. So please send that in. Like us on Facebook. And of course, you can catch everything on your favorite pod feed or at torturecast.com. And so I think we're going to move forward with audio only for the time being, just because sometimes it's a little hard to get everyone on camera. And there's some issues like that. But also 99% of our interactions, I guess, would be through the downloads. So we may keep it like this for a while. But I mean, I personally like doing the live streams. So we'll still do that at least on occasion, but just letting you know going forward. That'll be it. So Eric, anything going on with you?
No, normal Giants chatter stuff. I'm trying to get coffee together for next weekend, so hopefully we will. I finally have more of a set schedule, so I can start penciling in things. So Sunday mornings are back free for me, just like Monday mornings are here as well. And so, that's about it. I'm covering the game tonight for Giants chatter, but as always, there's recaps galore and stuff like that up there.
That's right. And I always love reading those. They're usually much more entertaining and informative than the beat writers, to be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
The beat writers are great getting the quotes from the players and things that you guys can't get. But as far as describing the action and the sequence of plays and throwing in some humor, I really do enjoy some of those breakdowns that you guys bring to the table. It's a lot of fun. So definitely check out Giants Chatter. But that'll do it for Eric. This is Chad signing off, and we'll see you next week. Until then, have a great week. Go Giants. Boom.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at torturecast.com. I also want to say thank you to Ashcon and Bailey for letting us use their song Feeling Like a Giant for our intro. For Ben Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills saying, we'll see you next time.